Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and pew-pews of all ages, like what you're seeing up there, that weird creature above me. We are about to finally end this gigantic and very silly quest to play all 5 of the Millennium games together. Everyone, I want to thank you if you've actually watched all 5 of my long play of Millennium, the entire series. If you have made it this far, and you've seen all those videos, congratulations. You've suffered a lot with me. And honestly, if you need to tap out, I understand. However, if you want to finally complete the challenge of seeing a little girl who had a hallucination about squirrels using teamwork to help each other and use this vision to beat up government officials and punch them directly in the face because they were mean or something, even though this girl was actually infinitesimally worse for society. If you want to wrap this up and see how that all ends, finally, even though you know the ending, you want to see how it ends, I understand as well. Because this game has been in the back of my mind somewhere, and it randomly accessed itself maybe around same time 2 years ago or something. What I would like to tell you is I am very happy to finally finish this game. Along this journey, she has not only managed to do better than the city-state on her own person and find precious rocks that could literally build her own town or city-state, she has managed to enslave 12 other people to start beating up these government officials and then presumably give them jobs. This game is insane. It's not unhinged. It's just insane. That is the plot. And along the journey, there is a lot of giggles, chuckles, hee 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 hee, and weird stuff that happens. I will just say weird stuff that doesn't always suit a children's video game. But this is the game that we are playing. So thank you if you have watched all the previous videos, which I don't think you did, that involve me going through these escapades of indeed playing these 4 video games that played up to this. This game is by Aldorlia Games, and there is no Aldorlia the Unicorn. And here is the other 4 games that you can play. Those are all video games. And this is the screen for said final game. Now, what is my relationship to this game? It's been in my Steam library forever. And I did it for when this was a Let's Play channel. I guess it still kind of is. So, cheers to that. My career of Let's Playing is more than just over. But the problem is, I had this video game in my library. It was bothering me a lot. It wasn't like a meme game like Nico Para. It wasn't like I Am Bread. It wasn't like Buckshot Roulette. It wasn't even like Lisa. This video game is a true experience. If you really want bad writing, please play it. I love bad writing. This game has made me... It has not only hurt my feelings, though. It has hurt my soul. Now, before I get started, this is actually... well, I have 2 things to say. I'm going to actually let you all in on a secret. and spoil all 4 of the previous games. So if you have at any point a desire to play this game for whatever reason, you can. I would highly recommend not watching anything else. But if you are a person who has already seen the previous 4 playlists of content that I have excreted onto YouTube and are interested in how I will attack this game, please proceed to listen. Okay. This video game has brought me pain, like I mentioned. It is unhinged bad writing. But it's not an unhinged game. It's supposed to be for children, but really, there's nothing child-friendly about what I have seen in some of this stuff that has been put in the game. What I will inform you is that this game is stupid. It is exactly what you think it is. It is a man trying to write something for little girls for some reason. And it comes across exactly as you would think. It's just kind of creepy and weird. But, okay. Why am I saying all this stuff? Do I think that this is a bad game? The tacticals, and it literally is a serviceable RPG Maker game. But it is so hostile in, mechanics and design. I don't even know where to begin, in my opinion. At least in my opinion. It's pretty hostile to anybody that uses this lovely feature called import. However, it does allow you to control the game with the mouse and the keyboard and the number pad. That's a feature. And I am not shitting you. Controlling the game with one hand for your number pad is so useful, especially if you have a beer in your hand, like I do. Delicious. So, of course, you need to have the ability to control a game like this with one hand, in case you just sort of want to. You could eat pizza with it. You could eat nachos with it. You could eat your Doritos with it. You could drink your beer. You can take notes with your left hand. But that's one of the nicer features. The import feature doesn't really work very well. It punishes you for it. I will explain this a little bit later, and you will see how if you've seen the previous 4 playlists I've made of this game. Yeah, I've made quite a bit of content. And if you do want to play those games, I'm not going to stop you. I'm just going to tell you you're in for a ride. And you might want to shut this video off now. But if you don't and you want to see me suffer, by all means, continue to listen. Okay. That said, let's have a swig. Honestly, I do like Stella Artois. Very nice. So, allow me to finally go over the plot up until this point. Not even joking. It starts off with a mom in the future of this, where this story takes place, explaining to her daughter why things have come to be and how bad things used to be back then. And the girl is listening on her couch. And she says, long, long ago, and literally right here, there was a girl literally your age. And she had a dream, you see, to make the world amazing. The lovely land of mist, great. And now I have to, jump to a comic book that was made by a fan called Stanislaus, who is this girl's father, who was on his way to Mist Rock and helped a woman not get beaten up by guards by distracting a golem and making a golem go after the guards, but not the woman somehow. And the man, Stanislaus, rescues said woman, and she's like, "You're a good person." He's like, "Thank you." And then they go through the conversation that is held in the game as well. And the reason why Stanislas is having a conversation with a particular set of guards that he did not scare off is because he went on a big pilgrimage to a place called Mistrock. And he wanted to just get them to send, like, aid or something. He was pulling the Zelensky routine of panhandling for routine, some help. But this time, the big bad evil Mistrock said, "No, you're dumb. In fact, you should die. And you should die to the thing that you're dying of, which is just disease and living in a swamp and being in Florida. That's it." And he gets told to fuck off, and there is a giant boulder that gets dropped on his head. Now, in the comic, it is further elaborated that the guards are actually not super duper bad, because it's actually, what is supposed to really be showing is that the boulder got dropped on his ankle, and then it gets really infected very badly. But the guards were just like, dude, the people that are trying to bring Stanislas back were kind of sympathetic and said, "Hey, we'll bring you home, okay?" And then Dahl, some guy in the village, also tries to get Stanislas to come to his senses, and he's like limping on his way home, and he's like, "Oh, there," and Dahl's like, "You got to be there for your daughters." It's like, "Oh my God, my daughters! That's right, I have those." And then he's sat in a bed and very, very tired because from a boulder falling on his leg, it gets infected and swollen. And then the girl with purple hair, which is supposed to be pink, I think, for these people. It's pink, but it's totally purple, guys. That's the daughter, yes. This woman behind the man with the Mike Tyson dragon tattoo. The man with the Mike Tyson tattoo on his face. That's really stupid, but you know what, whatever. I guess it's a thing. That's how you know he's bad. But the girl here, behind him, that's the protagonist. And she says, harumph. Mistrock bad. And Marine, and her name is Marine. She then goes and is told by her dad to get some medicine to her grandfather, not from him, to him, you see. And then she's like, "Okay, daddy." And then she goes along, and while she's swatting bees and dragonflies, she falls down a bridge. Well, not a bridge. She falls at the threshold of the other side of a bridge, and a fairy appears and then says, "Wow, you fell on me, stupid." And then Marine's dazed and confused, as most people would be, because she's now suffering from a concussion and a borderline mental breakdown because her father is in critical condition, and she's being told to fuck off and bring her grandfather medicine, which should be the other way around. But that's okay. She's just very confused. So this fairy, I assume you could call her hallucination demon or whatever, is just, well, I'll get to the enabling bit, but is like, "Hey, I can help you beat up things. You're cool. I like you." So then the fairy follows Marine around in her earring, because that's how this works. If a fairy is in your earring, if you fall on a fairy and you have an earring on, they kind of just go into your earring, like Pokemon. I know, right? And just go with it. And then she goes and delivers the medicine to her grandfather. And then she says, "Why is Mistrock evil and bad," or something. And then the grandfather is like, "Well, you would have to invoke something called martial law. Not the one that you think it is. It is the martial law in which you invoke a challenge to beat up the current government officials overriding the election that they host." Yes, there's an election every 5 years much like the United States, except there's an extra year just in case uh, a big bad virus comes around and starts wiping out people. I guess I don't know. Mm. But anyway, at this point, you then return, but not without assisting two very idiotic teenagers with getting a bag back. And then after that, you go and see a set of squirrels through a hallucination, I assume, help each other and give medicine to each other. I am not making this up. The the squirrels then are okay and help out each other, and then they are live happily ever after because the squirrels live in a utopia fantasy world run by their big god Snow White and the other Disney princesses that maybe they, you know, I guess worship. So then Marine says, "Did you see that?" And the fairy is like, "What? That just sort of happens every day." And she's like, "Yes, people should do that. I am going to make people work together or else. And then they will serve me and beat up the government." And the fairy's like, "What a great idea." So then she goes back home, recruits her cousin, and then the cousin says, "Well, actually, my father knows more about the martial law and how to do the thing." And then so they go and visit his dad, so her uncle. And then they go through a mountain, and actually no, they go through a big old a swamp, and they beat things up, and then they meet the uncle, and then he says, in order to invoke martial law, you need 13 big bad warriors. And then they ask a clown where to find their first warrior, I guess, which is really their second warrior, which, you know, you kind of could have seen coming from like 5 billion miles away. And then they find a crocodile hunter, and they beat up a big crocodile with the crocodile hunter, but not before going through a gigantic mountain range that is evil and full of birds and bears that will claw your eyes out. But anyway, more on that later. Or never. They recruit this crocodile hunter by beating up a gigantic crocodile. And then they beat up the crocodile, and they're like, and the crocodile hunters is like, "The fuck, how'd you do that?" And she's like, "No, you serve me now, Pokemon." And they are like, "Okay, I'll keep my word." And then they go through the mountain range again, in which there are bears and eagles that'll claw your eyes out. And some dwarves. There's dwarves in this world, but they don't really go over what dwarves do. And they go south this time, and then they see a monk. And he is getting mugged by thieves and assaulted and battered. And then they beat up the thieves, and they say, "Wow, this monk, you're stupid for going in the mountains. This is bad." And the monk is just like, "I just sort of felt like going places. I can take you back to my monastery if you want." And then they say, "Please." And then they find a lead for their fourth person to fight in this thing called Hirado, who is a dust monk. And they find this dust monk by going even further south of where they already are. I know it's like Florida where they are, but they got to go to another mountain, and then they got to go around a mountain range where there are big dinosaurs. And then they beat up the dinosaurs and dragons and a sea monster, and then they go into an ancient temple, and then they grab guns, and then they shoot zombies and skeletons. And then they find Hirado, just before all before they get the guns, by the way. But they find Hirado. He's just like, "You gotta beat up this evil djinn," and she's like, "I can do that." And then they go into the big temple, and then they grab a bunch of guns and plasma rifles, and then they just start shooting things up. And then they beat up the demon and shoot him in the face with a bunch of guns. And then they just say, "Well, we should leave the guns behind because it's kind of mean to take things that aren't ours." And not even kidding. And they are like, the one person protests is the cousin, the smart person. He is like, "Why?" And everyone else is like, "That's smart." Which, There you go. That's my comment. And then they go and then they watch the sunset. The end. But you can also beat up a bunch of bees, bears, dragonflies, birds, tigers, and also get a ton of really good items. And in order to get really good items, you need something called a magical key that unlocks chests that you can't just sort of keep in your pocket. No, you have to equip it. This is a thing that actually happens, and then you got to get some air sandals and hop around all over the place and get orbs. And if you're really lucky, you can go into a place that is a toy vault that is guarded by a clown, in which you have to get a lollipop in order to enter. But in order to get the lollipop, you have to get some really good honey, and in order to get well, you have to get it from a guy that has said lollipop, and then who will exchange it for honey. And in order to get said honey, you have to beat up a big bee, and in order to beat up the big bee, you gotta be really, really strong and be very, very fortunate enough to find a bee in the middle of the forest, because it's a really big bee. And in order to beat up the bee, you kind of have to be strong anyway, which is easy to adjust with the encounter rate being at its maximum rate of like 0 steps per encounter, meaning you could literally fart and there will be an encounter. And that game does not fuck around with that, by the way. So if you ever feel like you're not going to be able to grind or have enough levels, don't worry. Just set that encounter rate to 0. You'll be fine. But anyway, on to the second game. In game number 2, you then go and Marine. Fuck. How does this game? Well, basically they are in a shack and the Marine is making a speech. I don't know how I'm remembering all of this, by the way. Marine is making a speech, and then they go and decide to go to the east instead. And they decide, but not before registering some names for their little list, because they have to go to a bureaucrat in order to register said list for their martial law thing. And they go, and Hiroto then decides to fuck off, literally. And then Karine is still with you, the crocodile hunter. That's her name. And then they go south, and then they go through a cave again. And this time they have to beat up a big slug. But they beat up the big slug just before they meet a scientist, Dr. Robotnik, who's really called Norman. And they meet Pew Pew, the mascot, up here. And they decide to also go tag along with Marine with their big robot Gravitron, who is just a big robot and does things. And you beat up the slug, and then Karina's just like, I'm gonna bounce. And then Norman's like, wow, what do you know about the ancient civilizations? You know, the place that had the guns. And she's like, I don't care about them. And then they part ways, and then Benoit, her cousin, and Marine go through a forest, and dubious things happen, like Marine gets a kiss. Oh, that was my cat. I thought I heard something like over there, but no, she just decided to fall down. Anyway, so they go through a forest, and then they go to a place called Schumann, in which there is a gypsy, not making that up, called Jezebel, who tames animals. And they don't think to recruit her until way, way, way the fuck later. But they try to find more people to recruit. And then they go to the Elder of Schumann, in which he says, well, if you want to beat up things and get really strong with your hands, you need to use this umbrella. And then she throws a tantrum and then finally learns the umbrella, like Korra style, when she's like learning airbending or some shit. I guess that's a thing. And she just learns how to use an umbrella, and the umbrella allows her to beat up things that are big and makes her fast. So after all that, Marine learns how to use this umbrella kung fu thing, and then she goes through and decides to clear out a mine shaft full of spiders. And then they go to I forget, but there was a reason why they decided to go somewhere. They clear out a mine shaft, and then they go somewhere else. And then they return, and then they say, well, we know who to get. We know this person called. Oh wait, that's right. That's right. Ah, I forgot something. The reason why they go through the mine shaft is because Marine decides to deviate and find her mom. And there is a note that says that her mom is alive in the woods at one point where dubious things happen, where I mentioned before. So she finds this note, and then it says, your mom is still alive. Go to this other swamp. And then she goes to this swamp at this point, just so now we're back up to where I was supposed to be. Yes, so she decides to go to the other swamp, and she meets a guy called Abu, who is a big swamp warrior who hails from the Zulu tribe and knows magic and kung fu and how to use hatchets and weapons and lots of medicine. Not making any of that up either. And also is the lover of Maureen's mom, will who you figure out. But anyway, you kind of figure it out. But he's essentially the slave of this woman. And by the way, did I mention he's black? Yeah, exactly. Very subtle. And then Abu decides to go with you because Maureen's mom said so. Not even making that up either. It's there. So Maureen's mom is also named Clarissa. But Maureen's mom is like, guard my daughter. And then he goes, okay. And then they go back to Schumann. And then they go see a poster of Jezebel that does the thing. And then they think to recruit Jezebel for their very silly quest. And then Jezebel's like, all right, well, I got a task for you. You can find my pet griffin. It flew away, you see. And then Marine says, okay, let's do that. And if I find it, you will serve me. And then they do. And then they go through a jungle. Literally a jungle full of monkeys. And they get beaten up a lot. But then they go up to a mountain. And then through a mountain, rather. And then they go through another big plains where there's a big spider called Gigante. Now, this spider is really big as opposed to the other spiders that you cleared out in the mine shaft, you see. But, you can beat it up if you want to. But at this point, you go through this cave. And then you go through another cave just through that little plains. And then you find Norman Pew Pew, this guy up here, and Norman and the Gravitron bot. And then they tag along with you because that's needed for some reason. And then they go up to the mountain range where there's a lot of snow. And they beat up griffins and other birds that can summon thunder. Don't ask questions. And then you beat up the griffin leader, the alpha griffin of the pack, the leader of the pride. And then you genocide the entire, genocide the entire population of griffins to mass extinction. And then you find the griffin that Jezebel was really looking for, but the griffin doesn't want to go with her. So it does allow it to take a feather, because it's a divine griffin, you see. And it kind of can think. And Marine says, actually, this bird wants to be free, and it wants you to know that. How does Marine know this? Instead of the literal beast tamer? You got me. So, and then the second game ends where they go to Green Grass, her home, which is Florida. And then they fly on the back of the griffin. And you better have done your little side quests now and saved up those precious nuggets. Yes, those are things that you need. And because it's very useful. And then the second game ends. The third game begins where Marine is training, and then her umbrella training is over. You know that umbrella that I was talking about that could actually make her kick ass, and believe it or not, kick lots of ass? Then, I hope you don't miss it, because then you get to bin it. And then she gets met with some of the officials of Mistrock, one of them called Meryl, in which they punch her in the face, or she punches one of the dudes in the face, and then she gets punched in the face anyway. And then Marine is just like, giggles, I'm fine, or if you beat him up, and if not, then they're like, arg, that's unfair, I was not ready. Depends on how you go forward with this narrative, you see. Mm. And then they go to the west. No, they go to the east again. Sorry, they went west the first time. It doesn't matter. They went the opposite direction of where they went last time. And then they meet orcs and they kill them. And then they go to another village and then they say, look, do you have more warriors? And when they say, we don't know. Well, but we just know that we're being invaded by orcs. Isn't that right, Cat? I know. Anyway. So then they have to wipe out the orcs and do another mass extinction event of orcs. And they're obviously pissed off about this because they're orcs, you see. And because, everyone knows what orcs are like. They're big, they have big sharp teeth, and they're green. And they're mean, but that's what orcs do. So, they then do that, and then they may or may not meet Hirado again for no reason. But that was, but they are at the village. Before they start wiping out the orcs, they meet a man called Jack. Jack is a man who is interested in Marine here. Yes, like that. And she is like 15, he's like 20. Weird. And then Jack is the guy who tags along with them this entire adventure. And as they wipe out the orc population, they set civilians free, in which the orcs capture men this time for some reason, but whatever. That's why they have to rescue Jack's friend, James. Jack and James are Beavis and Butthead in this universe, by the way. I know I'm telling this out of order. I'm sorry, I have to have this in order to recap it. But as they return from killing orcs, the village elder is so shocked and in awe that, he learns about Jack being cursed. You see, Jack has a curse, and they figure out that Jack is cursed on the way back home, and as they're trekking through a big cave to get to said orcs. And he's a werewolf. And that's kind of cool, actually. So then they go back, and then James explains that he's actually a werewolf and he needs a potion, and they need a way to cure Jack's werewolfishness curse. And they can't do that because the witch had sold them the potion that is the antidote. Only works as well as like giving insulin to a diabetic, as opposed to being a cure, like an emphasis on cure. And that could have been a cool game mechanic that you could play around with, where Jack is a werewolf and can beat things up, but you run the risk of him going berserk. That could have been a cool game mechanic, but this was ignored. And instead, they're like, we need to cure him. So the village elder, upon hearing this news, jumps off a cliff and dies. And then a mermaid overhears them and says, greetings, I'm a mermaid. I tried to kill myself, and I am now also cursed for that reason to be a mermaid. Which is a pretty heavy thing for a children's game, but okay. They just sort of say it, and it's handled very ham-fistedly, but that could have been also good writing, but it was missed. And anyway, then the mermaid joins you along your little battles, and the mermaid is doing really great wonders of healing you with some form of sea magic. And I'm losing my train of thought. Oh yeah, then they go further west to find the witch that sold them the cure that works like insulin and not the magic of Jesus snapping his fingers and curing your diabetes. But he's a werewolf. So then they go to the witch, and then or at least they try to find the witch. They go through a big place. They go through a big swamp, and then they find the maid that does the thing for the big witch, and then that left, and then they find the witch in the middle of the desert. And when they get the tip to find this witch in the desert, and this witch in the desert is basically the Virgin Mary of a cult called the Cult of the Dragon, in which she was able to raise a big dragon for the kindness of her heart or something, and also make tons and tons of other great potions. And then you find out that the witch didn't really do much, so she makes a really. But the witch is crazy, so she makes a big snail attack you. And then you, I, I'm not making that up, and I wish I was making this shit up. And so you beat up the snail, and then the witch is just like, "Grr, go away!" And they're like, "No, sell us the real cure." And they're like, "No, the dragon can only do that. Use this seal, and then you can meet the dragon." And by going through that little passage, if you show it to some of the cult members, and then they do, and then they show this with the really interesting cult of the dragon, this big death cult that prepares sacrifices and shit. And then they go through the area, and then they also have to beat stuff up along the way, and then they do pest control within the castle of the dragon, who is called Malice. And that's a good name, isn't it? And they find a door, and then the robot that was actually malfunctioning up to this point, throughout the third game, then turns back on, and then they say, "Oh no, we need to find a way to get this robot back on because he could actually blast open this door, because that's what he's telling us." And then they go back to yet another ancient temple in which they can grab guns again, but they don't this time. They just don't. In the first and second game, they get the guns, but they don't this time. I don't know why. And then they go ahead and go back to this temple, and then go back to the castle, and then blow up the door. The reason why they had to go to the temple is because Norman was there for some reason doing research, and then he decided to update Gravitron, and then put Windows XP on him, I think, or Windows Vista. Sorry, Windows Vista on the robot. And anyway, then they go and blast open the door. They break in, and then they just say, "Please, Mr. Dragon, I want the cure." And the dragon is ape shit because they just blew open his door. I mean, then he's doing literal castle doctrine, big pun there, by beating the shit out of the party. And that throws him in his jail. And then while they're in jail, Jack turns into a werewolf, and then they break out of the jail, and by baiting the dragon into getting their food. I don't know why. It's a video game. And then so then they beat up the dragon for real this time, and then they decide to, I guess, push the dragon further. They're like, "No, I'm going to only cure one of them." And Jen, who says, "Marine, you need to push him harder on this. He's thinking about it," or something like that. Then revealed that Marine's fairy in her earring can read minds. Yes, and what a great power, and also see the future by like 5 seconds. Cool, right? And then they beat up the dragon, then they make him into a big old cuck. And then they say, well, then the dragon cures both of them, and then that's the end of the third game. The fourth game is where things get boringer. And by the way, those three people that it's Jack James and the mermaid, her name is Salome. She then serves Marine, and they all serve Marine because she's great. And then this time in the fourth game, you get the final people, Bogdan and the bear. I'll go over this. And this is the most railroaded game ever because Marine's like, "We need to get people. Bogdan, work for us or else." And then that's the half of the one part of the game. They find a random guy called Wolfgang who decides to just sort of truck along and fix things. But also, he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'll beat things up." "Seriously?" "Yes." And then that's the conversation. And then they go and Marine's sister gets stolen Marine's sister is also tagging along for this for some reason, but she gets stolen by Marine's mom, who is not Marine's mom according to these people just yet. They figure that out later. And then they go to a big temple, a big voodoo temple, to find Marine's mom who stole Marine's sister. And Marine's sister then is like, I don't know who this woman is, but she was like petting me and shit. It's weird. And then, uh, and then they find the Marine's mom, and they say, "Mom, I know that's you. My fairy in my ear told me so." And they're like, "Wow, how did you know, bestie? Pretty cool." And then so and then they go and then they leave the temple, and Marine's mom, Darth Mom, actually follows her along, and she decides to help, and then they decide to start screaming at this guy called Bogdan, who runs around all over the place, and he's like, I don't want to go. I'll think about going with you and fighting for you and leading you to the bear. And then she's like, great, lead us to the bear. And then he does somehow, and defies all expectation of all common sense. Anyway, and then Marine gets led by Bogdan to see the bear. And the bear lives in another swamp. Yes, there's a lot of swamps. And they go to this big swamp where the bear lives. And then the bear says, all right, well, you have, in order to, I don't want to fucking work for you. And he's the first person to give any form of resistance. And then she's like, well, give me trials. And then he's like, fine, beat up this big dinosaur. That was terrible. Leave. And then she's like, what? How dare you? You're stupid. And then he's just like, okay, then I'll give you a task to collect a bunch of fish bones. And then all of a sudden, they collect the fish bones. And then he's like, I already collected all the fish bones. Doesn't matter. I win, you lose. And Marine starts yelling at the bear, being like, harumph, we're gonna still win. You're dumb. You're stupid. I'm entitled to your labor. Which, not even bullshitting you, that's one of the things that she does. So anyway, then she goes and then they're like, alright, well, now that you've hit Bogdan, then the bear punches Bogdan in the knee or the ankle. And then they then have to rest for a day. And then they do one final trial and they still lose. It doesn't even matter. And then Marine says, you know what? I don't care about these trials. I'm going to set this man's house on fire. And, excuse me, gotta check my phone real quick for something stupid. But then she sets the man's house on fire. And all of the sudden, I do mean suddenly, the bear then decides, you know what? I'll go with you because I don't like you very much. But in this case, you're gonna have to, you know, do what I say for this and for your training. And of course, she says yes. And then they go back to Mistrak, where they finally have their 13 people to register, and it's great. I know I probably forgot like a bunch of people, but who cares? They got the big list, and then but then the city gates are closed, you see, because they don't want them using and submitting their list. So then they go through the sewers, yes, the sewers, and then they with Marine's grandpa, who is the final name for their list, so that they can actually make it. Yes, that's it, so that they can actually make the deadline, and that's what happens. And then they send Pew Pew, that guy up there, to submit the list, because there's a hole in the wall that he needs to go through, and then it gets sealed, and then it gets sent off, and then that's where we are up to this point, because now Marine is training real hard. So, now that I spent like just about well over 40 minutes explaining up to this point, we can now play the game. So, I have cut up the footage. Probably not. But now, we are going to test the most dubious feature of the game, the import function, which is this thing. There it is. We're in green grass. Yes. Here's the gang. Do you want to play the introduction? Can you repeat that? I don't know why. I don't know if this function. What? Can you repeat? We're gonna play it. It is the 25th of Floral at 12 o'clock. Yes, those are the months. Please save. Okay. This is a save that I just used to make sure that everything was good. Noon. Thank you, Jezebel. Thank you, Jezebel. By the way, she's like one of the better characters in the game. She's actually being bumped to third best character in the game. Brief aside, Pew Pew, the second best character in the game. D, the green thing that you see here, best character in the game. Jezebel is the third best character. Gravitron, I'm gonna give it the honorable mention to Gravitron. He's pretty cool. I'll give the 4th place to James because he's just so lazy, and 5th place to, like... Actually, no, I'll give it to, like, Norman because he's just so stupid. Anyway, those are the best characters in the game. You'll see why later, I'm sure. That means it's time to eat or something. It's time to eat something. No, it means it's getting sort of late. No, it's also when most people take lunch. For some reason, I don't see Maureen as someone who wouldn't show up even if she had failed. Maybe she is scared. A failure would be a disaster after all the human and fairy efforts that went into this. The sailor can look for treasure and never find it, but still end up on a beautiful island. Sometimes the journey itself can be considered a success. Look at us. We improved, met new friends. This is a success in my eyes. What, you naive soul? No, by the way. I played the previous 4 games. That did not happen. Probably only in your eyes. This is why she's like the best character, one of the best characters in the game. Go on. I find it hard to imagine Maureen, or the bear for that matter, seeing it the same way. She hasn't failed. Not yet, anyway. She needed a bit of sleep badly. They will have spent the night there, that's all. I sure hope everything went fine. Yes, me too. I joined because I wanted to help. It would be a real pity to stumble on the last step. The registration wasn't very difficult for us. I don't see why it would have been any different for them unless... Unless what? I don't know. They don't exactly hold Maureen dear in their hearts down there in Mistrock. Apparently half of the other people do, for some reason, according to the bad guys. She is the pesky fly they want to crush. Do you think that there may have been a problem with the registration? Such a waste of time. What is? Us. All this. Everything. It's okay. I got plenty of time to waste. We got, like, plenty of time to waste, sir. Yes, you're pretty awesome at it, buddy. I shall remember this, the first 4 words you said. Hey, you told Maureen you would train us. Did I? No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the grumpy man by the tree. Yes, he said that. But we aren't going to learn much if all he has to do is share complaints. Well. Oh well. Keep your spirits high, man. We've all been through hardships, not just you. I hate this character. You need to shush. You two better shut up if you don't want to train alone. Wow, 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 wow. Stop it. All of you. Trial mode is over, remember? We're a tight-knit band now. Shut up. All friendly, dedicated, and responsible to each other. No. Yeah, right. All standing strong. United behind one leader. Me! I wish. I almost wish, actually. This dude's a pedo, so... Yeah, right. Salome is so cute when she gets angry. Enough. I didn't sign up to hear your obnoxious babble. Marine should have been here by now. Probably a problem that came out of nowhere. It's always the same with Mistrock. We don't know that yet. Hey, that's them. They must have made it. I suppose so. And here's Merlene. 13, 13, 13. 13, 13, 13. That's true? You made it? Yes, they did. 13. She's out of breath. You would too if you had to run this fast. You're not running. So... It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. We did it. We registered Grandpa. Yes, really. They better get ready for some kicking and some punching and biting from the old master. I'm sure they'd be terrified. Don't rule out the old man before the show has started, young child. Haha, you'll see. Yes, Master Roshi here is going to actually teach us something. Why isn't he teaching us? He's the one with the martial arts degree. Oh, well, actually, the other guy is too. Oh, well. My friends, the last of the 13 has been officially validated by the Sage. They're not your friends. This means we are going to the arena in a week. We need there to be 6 in the morning of the 31st, but I heartily recommend we arrive a day before that. Yes, especially with what happened yesterday. What happened yesterday? I'll tell you, but first things first, get ready to train right away. Showdown will come fast. This will be our only chance to win the elections and make an impact on Mistrock. We are all here because we lost a friend or a family member. What? Let me try and remember. I don't think so. Marine is like a big maybe. And Marine and Merlene are the big maybes. I don't think that's true. I'm trying to, like, there's so many characters, like, I'm like, what are you talking about? And we all agree we've had enough. No. No, they literally, no, that's wrong. You literally ordered them to follow you. That's not why they're here. Mistrock is rich and powerful. We deserve a chance to be a part of it and work hard to exist as their equals. Communist. They have to stop ignoring us. They have to know that we are humans just as much as they, and we deserve a better life. I mean, you proved that you could just be their equal. In fact, more so by beating the shit out of dragons and orcs and stuff. You could have literally just ran for the elections. Or, you know, taken a few years to make a campaign. Literally do the normal thing that people would do. My dad didn't deserve to be stuck in his bed with a dreadful injury. You could have fixed that. So, yes, you know how I was making a big recap on why Marine was going around? You know, her dad having a critical injury. She ignored all that, by the way, to do this. She could have fixed him, but she didn't. Instead, now her mom is tending to a very serious injury. Anyway, my mom doesn't deserve to be disfigured. So, the reason why mom is disfigured, by the way, is because she was looking for a flower of immortality. I didn't mention this in the recap, I know, but she was disfigured because she was looking for a flower of immortality. And one of the side effects was that she literally did not get the eternal beauty benefit, right? That is not Mistrock's fault, stupid. But Lord Dragon is an uncaring man, and he will only listen to us if we win. He does kind of care, but at least that last part, I guess, is correct. Bear, you promised that you would train us if I managed to get the listen time, and I did. It's time for you to honor your part of the deal. And I will do as I said, but there isn't enough time, whether you like it or not. You promised. I promised to train you. It would take at least 2 or 3 months to make you excellent. What is that supposed to mean, young man? Are you trying to say that I'm not already excellent? Get real. No 1 week training is ever going to achieve what you all need, without exception, to be on par with them. God, I'm. If he didn't cock out, he would be such a great character. What a bummer. I'd hate to be some sacrificial lamb that would give Merrill the time of his life. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear you rule us out before it's even started. Hear what my grandfather said. What was it again that I said? Do not rule us out. Lord Dragon is a human being. Merrill too, although maybe not fully. Damn. I mean, Merrill being half orcish would actually kind of, work. If he's like one of the Uruk-hai, yeah, that would actually make sense. I find it hard to believe that he is a part of the government. Yes, I'm wondering where he works at. Stupidity and bullyism? Look at yourselves, just pathetic. I was stupid to let you believe that dream. Stop it. I should have known better. Stop! Stop it, Bear. Stop. You are making my big sister angry, and if you continue like this, it's going to be bad for you, Chuckles. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? What? Is it really? It's time to train, not babble. We've got only 1 week. It's not going to be 1 week for long if you keep repeating it. Exactly. Oh, Bear, you know what to do next. Put me through hell. Put us through hell. Oh, wait. Maybe we don't have to go that far. And, whoa, I just realized if we have to go far, I won't be able to keep up with the distance anyway. Stop acting like babies. We need to be ready. There is no time. Bear, I need the most difficult training you can think of. You are the expert. Tell me what to do. Tell us what to do. We are ready. You wish. I'm ready, but to go on a vacation. Slaps behind the neck. Shut up, you dork. Guys, please. Have you already forgotten how you vowed to help me with this? No, I thought that they all had family members that fucking died. So, enlighten us, Marine. We all here have to make some oath of some sort, and it is now that we must do our best. Follow me, then. We need to start with the basics. Marine, and those who registered last, take 6 hours of rest. Are you sure you want us to rest? I'm the one in charge. You do as I say, and our agreement in full. Or our agreement is null. The rest follow me. Good work. Yes. Excellent. Excellent. Sorry, I wanted to look at my Dilbert calendar. Anyway. 9 in the evening. Cool. Excellent. Are you happy with the first day of training? The showdown will be on us before we know it. Benwan is legendary optimism. He's not wrong, though, this time. What did you say? Oh, you're talking with her again. Genius. Tell him he's a genius. Oh, don't be so snarky. Yes. Jen is talking to me, and I'm replying to her. They explained who she is. Yes, it used to be a secret, by the way. You don't have to make it feel forced. Jen thinks that you're too pessimistic sometimes. Sometimes. Always. I guess I'm a bit more on the realistic side, unlike you sometimes. Yes, that's correct. For the most part anyway, but he's a wimpy cuck, so who cares what he says. Being unrealistic allowed me to find 13 warriors in the end. Yes, and now most of them are dead tired. It's for the best, I'm sure. We don't know what Mistrock will be up to in the next 6 days. If they wait that long, that is. See, he's being pessimistic again. Tell him. Benoit, have you got something on your mind? Borgon locked us out yesterday. No doubt he's going to try something again. I think Lord Dragon told him off last time. How do you know this? Oh, wait, no. Fair. Actually, no. She was in front of him. But they didn't have that nice little meeting. Oh, well. That's what they want us to believe. It might be staged, you know. I don't like the idea that they may try to hurt us before the showdown even happens. Well, get used to it, because I've been doing that. Jen, were you able to read Dragon's mind last time? Is he a truthful person? I don't remember. It's hard to read, as you put it. Clearly, there are too many people arguing with each other. What did she reply with? She doesn't know. Maybe Dragon is harder to read. I don't know. I need to talk with the bear. You do that. What great dialogue. I love this. Hello, it's me. How are you? Get some sleep. You won't be off duty tomorrow. You're young and you need sleep. You're middle-aged and you need sleep. You're old and need sleep. You just need sleep, guys. Yes, I will soon, but before I need to ask you something. How did our guys do today? Terrible. I got no words. Well, in fact, I've got one. I gave you my word and I'll train them, so I'll do that. Thank you. That was the whole sentence. We need you to be ready on time. I warned you, you will fail miserably. Now go bother someone else. What a jerk! I'm worried, Mistrock might attempt to interfere with us, before the showdown. Like Meryl trying to pester us again, I don't know. Are you even listening to me? Go away. I don't want my friends to be hurt, then why are you putting them through this? If Meryl comes around, I'll kick his ass myself. There, happy? Go to bed now. You may not be there at all times to protect us. Staying in Greengrass makes us very vulnerable. Can you think of a place where we could go to? No. Please try a little bit harder. Title bitch. I'm gonna go to bed after this. What a great bedtime story. I'm convinced our team will do a better job if we can escape our daily routine and focus on our duty. Does that make sense? I'm fed up with this. What kind of crazy thing do you have again on your wretched mind? At least her mind is not full of gloom. Grr, I wish I could tell that guy off once and for all. Do it. Do it. You have magic. I would like to move away from Greengrass and find a spot where we could spend the remaining days just training, improving our skills, and those sort of things. Set our minds free. How would such a thing change anything at all to the outcome of this? Well, I don't remember if that was... I should have reread that. I'm sorry. You saw it. You can read if you want the correct sentence. Well, first we will be cut off from Mistrock, which means they won't be able to bother us. Then there will be no one else to distract us. 5 or 6 days of intense training with nowhere else to do. Sorry, nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. I repeat, because it still won't down on you, will it? 5 days is not enough. You need months. Yes, she could have taken those months. She could have. That was an option, but she didn't take it. That was not a choice she made. And this is for the best of you. Most here would never reach the level of excellence that is required to approach these guys. Months, not days. Not if we do something for this all day long. Then you arrive broken in pieces for the showdown. Great idea. Darn. How will you always manage to drag me in one of your stupid arguments is beyond me. We're just wasting our time. You know I'm right, and here's why. For a teenage girl, you've got some guts. But your idea is rubbish all the same. Go to bed. Tomorrow I will wake you all up at 5. Okay. Marine, I think I need to tell you. An image just shaped in his mind. Your speech made him remember a place that I think he visited a long time ago. Are you sure you have strictly no idea where we could go? We are here to train, not go on holidays. At least that's what I thought. So we stay. Now I need to sleep, and so do you. The place he knows is the beach. It's a beach. Of course it's a beach. Or at least has a beach. It's all I can clearly see right now. This beach is a strong connection with something that happened when he was young, but it can't quite pinpoint what. He's tempted to go there. He really is. You're still here? I said to you, go away. I think you hold a chance to convince him. I don't know if it's in your best interest. He could lose his motivation to trade you guys if you get too emotional. I need a major change if we want to succeed. Make it happen. Say what? There is a little voice in my head that tells me that miracles require a drastic change and boom, an accident in the natural course of life. Take us to the place that shall fill us with the will, motivation, and the passion that we need to defeat our opponents. I'll give it a thought. Now go to bed. I don't want to talk to you anymore. You stink. What exactly was it that you saw in his mind? The bear has been hurt deeply in the past. He is hard to read. I think people with the high potential and meditation are the hardest to read. Real pains in the neck. But I did see lots of graphic gay sex. Marine, I don't know what tomorrow will bring. Neither do I. But I'll try again tomorrow. And we're back at green grass. It's 5 in the morning. Wakes up. What is it? Follow me, sleepyhead. What is it? You won't hear me say it often, but I think you were right. Don't get me wrong. I still think you won't win the showdown against Mistrock, but if there is a way for you guys to not get crushed too easily, then follow me. Where are we going? Have you told the others? No, but I'm sure you will. Why? Where do you want us to go? To the most beautiful yet dangerous place in the world. What is it? You'll see. It will look like a vacation, but trust me, it won't be. Wake up your friends and get ready. There is a little time. We are leaving immediately. Okay. Oh, alright. There's still more dialogue. Where is it that we're going? To the south. Again! Yes, we're gonna go to Waffle House. And we're gonna go to Florida. No, we're actually gonna go to Mexico. We're gonna go to Brazil, actually. That's pretty beautiful and dangerous. But there is nothing. It's just mountains. That's what you think. Oh, we're going to Argentina. That's where we're going. It's a cave to a forgotten land. How does this guy fucking know more about our own home? Okay. You know what? Whatever. I'll go with it. Not lost on everyone, apparently. Shut up. Just follow me. But why do we have to go there exactly? I thought we were going to train. You'll get it when we arrive. There are several hours of hard walking, so we better get going. Welcome to the wonderful world of Millennium, finally. In order to adjust your gaming experience to your needs and preferences, please take some time to answer a few questions. Which difficulty mode would you like to play on? We're going to go on hard mode. Heroes of Millennium will have 70% of their normal stats. We're gonna choose that. Do you want small arrows to walk you through the game? I prefer to be guided, so I can ignore them and find other things. Do you want to play with visible or invisible enemy encounters? This option cannot be disabled once you selected it. I prefer the invisible variety, actually. Oh, wow. River dance music. And now we have met with our second save. Oh my, 9 in the morning. Here's the deal. The place is dangerous, not for me, so you're not in danger as long as I am around. Now let's see what you can do. I have a question. Is this part of our training? Yeah, you could say that. But are we going to learn martial arts here? Shut up. Just do as I say. Go ahead. Only the martial artists don't want any... Go ahead. Only the martial artists don't want any robot or yellow blob to... or whatever to help. And you can count me out of for the time being. Oh, so Pew Pew's gone? Oh no. That's so sad. Does he really think Pew Pew is actually help? Guess he doesn't know us too well. Let's go. Yay! You're gonna be blown out of your mind of what I can do, youngster. Yes! Let's show him that we can handle ourselves just fine.